Sunday, July 17th at 6:40 in the morning, 15 degrees, and we're up on the K&P Trail north of White Lake Road. Thought I'd get out early today because the temperature's supposed to get up to 31 degrees centigrade with a humidex of 34. So thought if we got up here early enough, we might have a fairly pleasant walk temperature-wise, and also maybe avoid some of the worst of the flies, which will certainly get worse as the heat goes up. So we'll see how far we get and how good the conditions remain. It's a beautiful morning, calm, clear, and as I said, 15 degrees. Unfortunately, my lower back pain has been acting up again over the last few days. Not sure what might have instigated it this time. Last time I was pretty certain that I instigated it from a fairly twisting fall I took in the late winter when I was doing some chainsaw work. And I'm not sure what might have aggravated it this time. Maybe perhaps doing a fair amount of weeding recently in the gardens might have aggravated it. I don't know. It's probably going to be a thing that happens regularly based on the review I got of my lower spine, which I guess isn't in good shape. So right now it's painful for me to be walking straight up like this. Back to the old situation where if I bend over, I feel better for a few minutes, and then it gradually comes back. The joy of aging. It's kind of interesting because I had just been thinking the other day how good I've been feeling for the last few months. No problems at all, really. Hopefully I can get rid of this with a bit of rest. Well, the deer flies are pretty heavy already. I can see that. So I imagine they'll get really bad once the day heats up a little. This isn't a surprise. I knew they'd be bad up here, but I just thought maybe we could get a decent walk in before the heat gets going, and also at this hour we shouldn't encounter many ATVs. Most of those folks don't really get out here until 10 a.m. or so in a big way. Here we are at Ball Road, having finished our first 2.5 kilometers. It's another 2.5 kilometers to my normal destination on this hike, which is the large bridge going across the marsh. Not sure I'm going to get there today or not, but it's 7:20 now. I keep thinking I need to get one of those hats that has a long flap at the back that goes over your neck. That would be very good to keep the deer flies off the neck area. Because even with my collar here, I turn it up and then it falls down, of course, and then the deer flies nail you in the back of the neck constantly. And they also like the temples, anything exposed, hands, wrists. That's about all I have exposed right now. (7:38), temperature approximately 20 degrees centigrade, high humidity, still no wind, and deer flies are getting worse as we head north here along the trail. So we've just passed Bedrock Farms. Now we're heading north into the wildest section of this portion of the trail. This is where the trail cuts into some nice mixed forest. Lots of white pine and for a little stretch, and then we go through, and then we start to go through the marsh swamp proper. And that's where it will tend to be the buggiest for sure. So we're now starting to pass the swamp area, which we will go through for the remainder of the trip north. Here it's an alder swamp to the right of me, and a forest on the left side. And the deer flies are very thick in here, as expected. Normally I don't come up here at this time of year walking because of that fact. We've gotten away with it a bit this morning because we started early. But now that the day is warming up and we're getting into prime habitat, they're very thick here. I don't really like to put the dogs through this level of harassment with the deer flies or mosquitoes or what have you, but we're not going to be up at this end too long. And I thought it would be just nice to get out here and see the place again. Well, the bridge is just ahead of us here, 100 meters or so, and it's just coming up to 8 o'clock, so we've made it here in good time. And we'll just take a quick break and let the dogs have a swim. It's one of the few places that has semi-decent water for them to go into and cool down. And then we'll head back shortly after that. Try and get back before the real heat starts to build. Here's an interesting sighting I've just noticed. A couple garter snakes here on top of this railing, on the post of the railing at this location. Trying to approach slowly so they don't jump. Typically, I don't think of garter snakes as climbing snakes to any large degree. Certainly other snakes are very capable of it. Gray rat snakes, for example, are good climbers. And I don't usually think of garters as climbing very often, but obviously they had to climb up here somehow. I assume probably in the adjacent dogwoods here. They probably came up through those branches and then onto this, because I don't think they'd be able to climb the piping down here very easily. It's just a square block of aluminum for the post, or an H-shaped block, as you can see here at the back maybe. But they got up on top of here, and they may be mating or just enjoying the sun. Interesting. It's funny how when you rest for a little while, 5 or 10 minutes, the deer flies gradually dissipate around you and you're left with really nothing. They really are attracted to the motion. Well, it's 8:46 and I've just had an interesting discussion with a fellow I used to meet up on the trail here many times a few years ago. I hadn't seen him in probably a year or more. He rides up the trail quite often in the morning here. But ran into him today and we had a good long, probably half-hour discussion about various things. So that was interesting. Good to see him again and know that he's doing fine and still enjoying riding up here. Said he's also been involved in doing a lot of work on his property, clearing trails and whatnot, so he's active. And anyhow, good to talk with him again. But the time is passing and the day's getting hotter, so we're moving on now. Well, it's 9:20 and we're just back at Ball Road, so we're halfway back to the car. Certainly warming up, feels like 25 centigrade now at least. Humidity still high. And in about 45 minutes we'll be back. Try and find the dogs one last swim here, potentially at this marsh, if they can get down to it. That's the issue along here. Some of them are not easy to get down to. Well, we're about 300 meters or so away from the finish line and back to the car. And it's approaching 10 o'clock. It's about 10 to 10, so we'll be back about 10 probably. Hope you've enjoyed this wander up and down the K&P Trail. What was that that you have, Luna? That's not probably good for your teeth. Deer flies all over you, eh, honey? Oh.